everybody. Welcome to the Pulse Beat podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hill, and we're going to have a great show today. This lady has so much energy. She has been on a mission for many years. We're going to hear a little bit about that today, but you're going to be impressed with not only her energy, her mission, her passion, what she's been doing all these years for women, menopause, perimenopause. But the Pulse Beat does just that every week. We invite these wonderful guests. We dig down deep. We get great information so we can share with you, sponsored by Cardio Miracles. So welcome, Amy. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled. Thanks for that nice intro.
Oh my goodness. And let me just share with everybody a little bit about yourself before we start. You're an award-winning investigative science writer. Now, I'm sure if anybody's listening, they're going, what is a science writer? But you're going to tell us. Going menopausal and what you and your doctor need to know about the real science of menopause and perimenopause. Science-based syndicated columnist in papers across North America. The past president of the Applied Evolutionary Psychology Society, mediator for hire and volunteer mediator for the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office. And her latest TED Talk, Listen to Learn Instead of Fighting to Win. I love that. So where do we start, girl? You got so much to talk about.
Well, I will explain first. You said that about science writer, investigative science writer. Thank you for not calling me a journalist. I am not. Journalists are more respectful than I am. I'm not a respectful person. When I read science, so I do a deep dive into science. I don't care how important someone is. I don't care what they have to say. The science speaks to me, and that's how I decide things about, whether or not their methodology is good, and whether or not we can use it to decide our medical care. And that's very important because, well, I've written a science-based advice column, syndicated column that was behavioral science, some dietary science. But I got into the medical area because I saw from my own first hot flash and reading the research, this huge gap between the practice standards in medicine and what the science says. And so I had to fight some battles with my provider, Kaiser Permanente, to get evidence-based care. And because of that, so I fought these 3 battles to get a drug called oral micronized progesterone, which is the drug that is the same as the progesterone in the second part of your menstrual cycle. And so this is a really vital hormone and a vital drug. It has fewer side effects than aspirin. It really is necessary. And in perimenopause, progesterone goes missing, and it has terrible effects on us, our mental health. The book title, Going Menopausal, is both about the inexplicable rages that some of us who are very symptomatic feel, and I was one of them, where you're suddenly this person filled with hate all the time and rage and wired. I was in the hardware store. I'm from the Midwest. I like people. I talk to everyone. This guy, I turn around, he's behind me. It's like the prototype of my grandpa and my dad, the Mr. Fix-Its, on the weekend, getting some part for the dishwasher or whatever. The guy starts to hum. Now, I would normally identify this with my dad also. I wanted to kill him. I literally wanted to find a heavy object and bludgeon this man to death. And I felt such shame. I saw myself wanting to do that. So horrible. But luckily, I read the research shortly after this, and I saw this as a symptom. And because doctors don't know the medicine, the physiology of perimenopause and menopause, they don't know to tell you this. And I've had friends and then just people I've, corresponded with who've written to me who are so ashamed of being mean to their husband and
hey, Amy,
their job.
Let's back up for I want people to understand, how did you get here? I know that you have this big personality and this beautiful journey that you've been on as a young girl at 20, 25. What did you envision? How did you get here as a scientific writer?
Okay, you want the whole real accidental career.
Come on, we want the whole enchilada.
Okay, I'm a really madcap person. I moved to New York. I got a job right out of college at an ad agency producing commercials. Great job, Ogilvy and Mather. I cast Eartha Kitt for a Hardee's fish sticks commercial. I mean, you're doing like really fun, great work there. I had two friends. We would go out and have these adventures. And so we had this idea to give free advice on the street corner, like Lucy,
Oh,
except
wow.
we thought, well, nobody's going to, who would even pay us a nickel? So, we made it free. Lucy charged 5 cents. And so we sat out, we thought we'd just be this visual joke. I know, we had sat out West Broadway and Broome. We had folding chairs, from the thrift store and a magazine rack as a table. We're all wearing we're black, and we were very, I love to dress up. I dress up every day. I'll wear a sequin dress and cowboy boots to the drugstore, like a gown dress. Those you get them for $8. No one likes evening wear anymore.
That is
Anyway,
so funny.
so we sit there and we expect people to pass and laugh, but it's New York. Because the sign said free, people lined up around the block. And now I didn't even take psychology in college, but I read everything. And people began to ask us questions of consequence. And so I thought, well, this is horrible. I don't know anything. And I read through all of psychology. This is the kind of person I am. I'll stay home and just spend the night, on some question that I'm looking
So
up.
you are somebody that literally just craves information and data and downloads.
Well, you know what
and
it
you
is?
just research, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I do, but also there's what I've become. At first you need the information to have a basis, but I am a problem solver. Someone yesterday told me about he got a drug for something that happened for when he was 18, and I immediately went, okay, but is that really the condition you have, or is this a single episode? What could it be caused by? All these different causes. This drug you're taking, it lowers testosterone, and all of this stuff where you go into this transdisciplinary hunt, and this is what's missing from medicine, by the way, and research. Doctors and researchers, they have one specialty and they don't look at the rest of the body. Well, we're a system, not like a single lab, number.
That's right.
And so just to tell you the rest. So I do this with my partners. I end up getting us a deal with De Niro for a TV deal and a book. I get us a book deal and a column. One of them stops, the other one stops. So then I run with the column. I get myself syndicated to 100 papers.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so I've been studying science. So then I put more and more science in the column. Now I'm very, very nervous about doing right by people. I write applied science. And what that means is that when I would do the column, I would look at what my, the answer was. And I don't tell people what to do because that actually incites rebellion. They do anything else. But you say, you might do this, you might do that, or you lay things out that way. And I would look and say, hey, I speak to myself profanely. Hey, a-hole, will anybody actually do this? And will they keep doing this? And if the answer is no, you're a terrible jerk. You're disrespecting people, wasting their time. How dare you? But so asking that got me to do the doable answer. This is what my book is like also. There are, you can find, there are some doctors that do good work, in this area that have done books that not many, but because they get different areas wrong, they're not transdisciplinary. But, what they don't have is the important step, which is, okay, here's the science. How do you get this care out of your doctor? So, here's the science, doctor, give me this care. No. Oh, okay, now what? And my book gets around that. I give you fail safes, legitimate medical data you can collect from your own body where you just log like temperature. And no, don't use those BBT, the basal body temperature apps for fertility. They're wrong. The period's not 28 days, the menstrual cycle. That's wrong. They tell people that, people desperate to have children, give them the wrong information. It's so horrible. Anyway, but you present this to your doctor. Look, here, I'm showing you this data that show my body is not making progesterone. And when you don't have progesterone, you don't have GABA, which promotes sleep. I'm not going to say the whole thing. GABA is the short name. If you look at the supplements, which dubiously maybe cross the blood-brain barrier, but probably not, probably just a waste of money. But progesterone potentiates GABA and sleep and mental wellness. And it helps your bones. It helps, estrogen and progesterone basically are active throughout your body. And without it, that's where you have the rages. It's basically like rims on the highway in one of our famous California freeway chases. That's how you feel. That's how I felt.
Yes.
And doctors don't know. And so if you show them, look, here are the temperature readings. I show how to calculate this. It's called quantitative basal temperature, different than the basal temperature. It's really anyway, I'm not going to tell you the research origins of this. But if you do that, then you can show, oh, look, my temperature is not rising in the appropriate amount that Rudy Volman in the 1970s found it rises when you have the progesterone phase of the menstrual cycle. And I'll explain how you get to that. And so that means I am short on progesterone. And this is very important because progesterone protects your body from the proliferative effects of estrogen in the breast and in the endometrium, which is your uterine lining. And so I'll give you an example. In the breast, progesterone, we'll go these generic cells. So they're just any kind of cell, like and they can do anything. Progesterone will cause these cells to differentiate, to mature into breast cells. So breast worker cells with a job to do. So you give a delinquent a job and that you make them do it, they aren't off smoking behind the dumpster or whatever it is.
Right.
And so these cells, because they're not delinquent and generic cells anymore, they can't double and redouble into breast cancer. And without progesterone, you have estrogen causing cells to proliferate and then nothing to wrangle them. And this is very dangerous. And doctors don't know. They just think, oh, you have hot flashes. Oh, I'm sorry. They'll get over them. Or something. Right. I mean, the betrayal.
And many doctors will tell you, many doctors will say, I don't know. I don't know why you have hot flashes. It's never been, they just don't know.
Well, so the entire mechanism of hot flashes is not entirely understood, but we know a lot about it that doctors don't know. And what happens is it's not actually caused by estrogen itself. What happens in perimenopause is your feedback mechanisms that were, in good shape and all together through much of your life as a young fertile woman, unless you have some of these cases of like PCOS and other disorders. But everything was working fine, and then all of a sudden, estrogen starts spiking and then diving. And this is the thing doctors don't know. It is not estrogen that causes hot flashes, but it is the withdrawal. It's like drug withdrawal. And people who are withdrawing from drugs also have hot flashes, because what happens is hot flashes are not just uncomfortable, they are harmful. There's a rise in a stress neurotransmitter. And then, so you're getting that over and over and over again. And you don't want this chronic stress hormone release from this. This is not helpful to the body. It's inflammatory. Inflammation is the thing. Basically, we get burnt down until we're dead. You want to keep that very low. And
so you write about your journey and your discovery in your book, right?
Well, so just to give you a short story, because we got stopped from that a little bit. What happened was I went to my provider and I said to my gynecologist, who's actually a wonderful human being, and he's a great doctor of delivering babies. I tell everyone to go to him. He listens. He makes it's called shared decision making. He gives you suggestions according to your values. This is very important. So this is when I had the battle to get oral micronized progesterone instead of the cancer risk increasing medroxyprogesterone acetate. Because I'm a simp from the Midwest, I say, well, okay, I've showed you all these randomized controlled trials, very good research to support this. Will you give this now to all your other female patients? And they're like, no, of course, no, you're nuts, basically, was the attitude. I mean, not that disrespectful, but, so I thought, well, okay, so I have been coached. Now, since 2007, Sandra Greenland, one of the preeminent epidemiologists and biostatisticians in the world behind reforming research methodology, he is so generous. He's coached me since then in how to read and critically evaluate.
That's impressive.
It's amazing because most people at his level, he co-wrote the seminal textbook in his field with Ken Rothman. They're not, who's the pipsqueak redhead, with the fancy dresses. They're not spending time, but he got my column every week, talked to me. We'd have these talks, and he would send me stories about the fraud and errors and abuse in medicine. That's how I knew about that. And so, this allowed me to have an ability where I thought it is not moral for me to not do this book. It's like watching from across the street as a stream of women walk into an open manhole. And so I lived off my savings for 8 years to do this book, did really nothing else because I needed to spend every moment to make sure I got the information correct, because otherwise, I couldn't live with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the evolution of this, and why I ended up doing this book that I never would have done for any other subject. Like, live off your savings. Hi. Okay. You're stupid about like, buying a car. I like smart cars, and everyone thinks, hi, you're a moron. And I am. I need to go with an adult. If I ever buy a car, an adult has to come with me and stop me from my worst impulses of like, oh, it's cute. Okay, the point of transportation is to get from point A to point B without dropping an axle, dear. And so, this is just this. It is, like you said, you correctly characterized it, a mission, because I can't bear it, what's happening. And I want to just give you the reason for all this betrayal. People will say things to me like, oh, doctors are just in it for the money. I go to Kaiser Permanente. My doctor's not getting a Ferrari for treating me. They get a fixed salary, nice but modest, not, plastic surgeons make all the money in Los Angeles, as you can see from everyone with cat face in the movies.
Yeah.
So anyway, the big scandal of gynecology departments is that almost none of the doctors have any training in menopause or perimenopause. Now, I'm sure that they got like a couple pages or a chapter in med school.
Sure.
And then, they
just like they never got any training in nutrition and wellness.
Exactly. It's
It
such
was
a
all in the
parallel.
classes that they missed.
Exact. Huge parallel.
Yes.
And so when you go to the gynecologist and you're a menopausal or perimenopausal woman, and they're having an appointment with you, this is a violation of medical ethics. I quote, I think her name's Sarah Hawley in my book. She's a cardiologist, and she says, my patient will ask me for allergy medication. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal. It would be convenient if she would just prescribe it. But she says, I'm sorry, I have to refer you back to your primary care doctor to get referral to an allergist, because she doesn't know the science in that area. Same as if people ask me questions about hematology, about blood, I say, like, I don't really know. I can look it up for you if you want. And so this is the problem. Now, you'll see people claiming to be certified menopause experts. I cannot tell you what a joke this is strongly enough. This means that they went to continuing medical education training through the Menopause Society. Mm-hmm. And what this involves, they have to do 45 hours online courses. And 15 hours of this has to be menopause and perimenopause. And then they take a 100 question multiple choice test. I mean, this is obscene. We have traffic school. If you get a ticket in California, it's like pretty much the same. So I call this traffic
menopausal traffic school.
Exactly. Well, traffic school for your ovaries. And I will tell you that, I've talked to the supposed expert at Kaiser, and I'm like a medical lie detector. I hear all the things she's getting wrong, and I tell her, which does not engender, nice feelings toward me. I advise women how to partner with their doctors, but I had 10 doctors refusing me the increased dose of estrogen I had documented, tested need for, because they're practicing defensive medicine. They're ignorant about the science, and they're afraid what will happen to my medical license. And I will lay the science out, send them the studies, explain it to them, digest it like a mother bird digesting food for a baby bird, and not in a nasty way. But so this is really a betrayal also. Every bit of our care really in menopause and perimenopause, save for the rare doctor. I know one doctor who I trust as an evidence-based practitioner, and only because I read a chapter of his, this obscure chapter in this book on the uterus, where he went through all of, basically all the areas of menopause and perimenopause. And he has transdisciplinary scientific knowledge, backed up knowledge. And so he's the one doctor I'll recommend. And then nobody else. People say, can you recommend? No, sorry. And that's just in New York City. So
this might be a really good point for us to give a shout out to our sponsor, Cardio Miracle. One thing that there's a lot of confusion out there about is not only menopause, but really overall health. And how do we meet all the needs of the body, despite whatever we might be going through, whether it be, going through youth from 15 to 25, whether it might be menopause or menopause, or even as we age, and maybe it's an athlete that wants to increase their endurance, decrease your recovery time. Cardio Miracle is that perfect product. Not only do they sponsor this show, but they're a big sponsor of taking back our health and also for healing the hearts of mankind. John Hewlett created this product almost 15 years ago. He went through something very traumatic in his life, and an incident that happened at the hospital, and really started studying about how and what our heart needed at that time to repair itself. And then he started to discover and understood about the importance of nitric oxide. So he built this entire product around that. It's absolutely doing wonderful, changing lives every single minute, I will say. So not only does it increase the nitric oxide in your body, but it also creates all these wonderful, wonderful healing mechanisms from the top of your head to the tip of your toe. Nitric oxide, if you don't have nitric oxide, we know that your blood doesn't flow correctly. And as we age, we don't end up with nitric oxide because it does diminish over a period of time. So our endothelial cells inside of our veins and arteries are just that. So they create the gas that's called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide delivers the blood to the tip of your toes, tip of your fingers, tip of your nose, top of your head. So we've had the most amazing journey with Cardio Miracle. And I thank John Hewlett every day that he's able to get this product to us and continue to expand the globe really with one product. There's over 700 nutrients in it and over 58 ingredients. So shout out to John. I know it changed my life. I know many, many women that have gone through exactly what you're describing. Once they get great nutrition on board, they start feeling better because nitric oxide crosses the blood-brain barrier. They start to have a better outlook. They start to feel happier, full of joy, and just the overall feeling of feeling better because now our cells are bathed in nutrition and nutrients. And we like to say that we're as close to nature as possible. So we're talking about whole food. We're talking about organic ingredients. So all of that is vitally important, I think, to all of us, especially if you're going through a period like menopause or menopause, right? Because your body is in a disarray. The body isn't working like we would like it to work when we were, 25 years old. So we've had many people that have had better sleep, better energy throughout the day. They've had a certain calmness throughout the day. So again, hats off, John. Thank you so much for our sponsor. So back to you.
Can I just comment? I was smiling. You might have seen this when you started talking about the endothelium. This is and nitric oxide. So estrogen and progesterone both increase nitric oxide in your endothelium. They dilate your arteries. And this is what nitric oxide does. That's why it's so important. So dilating your arteries, you talked about that. The blood flows better. When you have wide open arteries, like the 405 freeway here at like 3 in the morning on, the only time there's no traffic, the blood flows freely. And the reason this is important is that when your arteries are narrowed and blood has to rush through to get through, what happens is you can have lesions in your arteries. That's where plaque and these other nasty things like foam cells collect. And then what happens is unstable plaque breaks off. There's a clot. And this is how you can have a heart attack from the blocked flow or a stroke when the blood flow is blocked to your brain. It is so important.
Yes.
And this is why estrogen, people think, oh, well, I'll take that if I'm symptomatic, and in menopause. Now, people should not take estrogen in perimenopause. Some people can, but you may be overdosing yourself on the hormone that may be causing problems with the lack of progesterone. So lots of estrogen, more estrogen, no progesterone, doctors not understanding that. But in menopause being 12 months without a period, and I'm sorry if you have like 11 months and 27 days, the clock resets if you have a bleed, and this is menopause. Women who initiate estrogen very close to menopause or within 6 years, and perhaps at most 10 years, who are healthy, who do not have plaque in their arteries. I lay out all these tests in Going Menopausal to determine whether you have health, that's sufficient. And all of this is DIY. So you could do this, get lab tests. Not all states allow this at a lab. And I give the information. There's a nonprofit called ownyourlabs.com by citizen scientists Dave Feldman,
Say that one
incredible
more
guy.
time in case they want to write that down.
Oh, it's ownyourlabs.com.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for making me do that, Amy, and stop mumbling fast.
That's
And
okay.
so they charge, for example, I think there's some tests that can go up to $143 I put in the book where they charge, I think, $7 or $23. It's inexpensive
Okay.
compared to
Perfect.
the labs. And so you might even have a medical plan and tests available through there, but you might want to get it through this lab and coordinate that with your doctor, because why pay $147 when you can pay $23 if that's not covered? And this is very, very important. So taking progesterone right at menopause is a healthy menopausal, just menopausal women. What happens is you preserve estrogen receptors in your endothelium. This is the lining of the arteries. This is vital to health. Your health is basically decided by, do you have a healthy endothelium or not? Are
That's
your
right.
arteries smooth like
Absolutely.
Teflon?
Yes.
Yes. And so this is vitally important. And so if you take estrogen, then these estrogen receptors will stay. They won't disappear. And so this allows you to be protected most powerfully throughout your lifespan, if you can take it. And the way to take they talk about this now in these Menopause Society bulletins. There's no stopping rule anymore. They used to say you have to taper at 60. Which was from the discredited 2002 Women's Health Initiative study. I can explain
Yeah, I
why
remember
that was
that one.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now, if you are healthy, if you don't have plaque in your arteries or other conditions that would cause you that would contraindicate estrogen, you can take estrogen throughout your lifespan, and you need progesterone to counterbalance it, even if you do not have a uterus, which doctors will not. They don't understand that, because progesterone is very healthy and has certain jobs, and it is not harmful. And I can talk about cancer risk, or, people want to know about that because it's not what people believe. And then what was I going to say? And then I can talk also about that healthy kind of estrogen is transdermal. So it's basically a sticker estrogen that people put on their abdomen. Or if you need like the most absorption, as I do, you put it on your butt.
What you are suggesting is when perimenopause starts, to take a topical estrogen.
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. Perimenopause. Okay. So perimenopause is the 3 to 10 years leading up to menopause, in which some women are very symptomatic and others are not.
Right.
What is important to do is to use quantitative basal temperature taking, developed by this endocrinologist, incredible. All the stuff in perimenopause in my book either originates from her or from my knowledge from reading her research and then going further, into the field, basically as a scientific mole rat like I am. Her name is Geraldine Pryor. She's at the University of British Columbia. Just fierce fighter to have progesterone recognized as the actual physiological, hormonally different state than menopause that it is. And then also to have progesterone studied and used to treat women instead of giving them these drugs like medroxyprogesterone acetate that increase cancer risk and do not protect your sleep or your mental health. They in fact, cause problems. So this is what's very important. So some women may be able to take estrogen in perimenopause, especially maybe late menopause, but it's really best to wait until that, 12 months and 1 day, at which point there's a 95% chance you'll never have another period again. And I want to say two things. If you have bleeding in menopause, you're busy. We're all busy, these days. It's probably nothing. No, don't you dare say that. Bleeding in menopause must be checked out by a doctor. I was pretty sure that nothing was wrong because I'm a progesterone factory, that I didn't have, the uterine cancer or any kind of vaginal cancer. And I had some bleeding, made an appointment at the doctor. And as I was getting on the phone, because I'm an expert in this area, I said, and the doctor should take out my 7,000-year-old copier IOD. And as I thought, I said to the nurse, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. This is IOD, I'm pretty sure. Of course it was, but I got examined, transvaginal ultrasound, my doctor, going, see, is there anything there? Vitally important. Err on the side of being, safe. Please, please, please. The other thing that's vitally important, because women are so betrayed, not getting any kind of care or information from the doctors who don't know the information themselves, You see women helping women, and that's wonderful,
That's
but
right.
misguided. On Reddit, Menopause Reddit, which is wonderful, and they'll tell women, oh, use this use this progesterone cream I got off Amazon. Oh my God, no, please no. First of all, the supplements area is the wild, like
It
wild
is.
untested
It
west.
is.
I use
Yes.
Consumer Lab because they do independent testing. So that way I will see what's the cheapest, what doesn't have arsenic, what has the right amount. But here's the thing. Progesterone cream does not get into your system in sufficient amounts to protect your breasts or endometrium. It is so important that you go to a doctor to get, the medical test. Go to Planned Parenthood if you can't, if you don't have a medical plan, and then you can use these telemed providers, doctors. Oh, here's the story. In America, this is so egregious. Doctors don't give the 300 milligram dose of oral micronized progesterone that we should be given. Now, the reason for this dose being needed as opposed to the 100 or 200 milligrams they give for no scientific reason. In other words, nobody said, let's test. Oh, 100 works
Right.
gangbusters, while 300, oh, that might, cause you to grow a third ear.
Now, Amy, before we go any farther, I want to make sure if people want to get your book, where do they get it from?
It's going menopausal, what you and your doctor need to know about the real science of menopause and perimenopause. And I want to tell you, I'm a nerd, but I also, I live to have people understand the science. And so I
That's
write this in
beautiful.
ordinary
Yes.
language, and I'm occasionally
Yes.
cheap and vulgar and funny. I didn't put swear words in here. I don't think my last two books had the F word in the title. Good Manners for Nice People sometimes say the F word. So I'm a bad person, but I try to be, the genteel for those who are. And so, yes, it's available Amazon, independent booksellers,
Perfect.
Barnes and Noble. There's a wonderful audiobook voiced by this, I cast her myself, Carrington McDuffie, brilliant singer. She's super smart. So she knows how to read, had all these conversations with me about how to
Nice.
say things that make sense. God, I love her. And so that's great. And then, if you can't afford it, I mean, get it out of the library. And seriously, I actually say this, I'm the dumbest author in the world, but this is a mission. You could steal it, but I hope you won't, because I lived off my savings and I need the money.
No, don't steal it.
No, and then, no, I prefer you don't. And then the other thing is, if you are a person who reads and your friends don't read, oh my God, please tell them what's in the book. Send them screenshots from your phone of stuff they need to know.
Use it as a reference. I would say if you're not where we are or where we were, we're way past that. But imagine if you know somebody that's going through it. What a beautiful gift to give them.
Oh, I
Isn't that
agree.
great?
Yeah, and it's not expensive. I
Yes.
did this other thing. I'm like a truly financial idiot on some levels. So, if you're an author, you get a hardcover, and they do hardcovers of serious books like this. You get more money, and then there's a paperback after the hardcover. So it's like you sell your book twice. So, but my agent and I, it was important to make a deal for a trade paperback, so it would be affordable to women. And then the Kindle edition, the ebook,
Nice.
and then the Nook on Barnes and Noble, it's like $9, $9.99. And this means so much to me. So that way, you can spend that. It's like a few lattes or whatever. It's your
Yeah.
health. And I urge people to do that, like to spend money, on things like the things of value, like getting these tests. You must make sure you don't have plaque. And the reason I'm saying this should not be what I'm like, direct to patients information, but we women cannot wait for medicine to be reformed. And there's a lot of
Right.
reform needed. There are three big myths of our medical care, and it is that doctors make decisions based on scientific evidence. In fact, they are not trained to read the science and evaluate it in med school. They don't know how. So they don't read the science. They're not keeping up on current evidence. The other myth is that doctors are trained in diagnostic reasoning. That's like Dr. House, where you have a symptom you come in with, and they ask you questions to get to the underlying condition.
Yeah.
The reason this is important is that a headache might be a lot of stress at work, or it might be a brain tumor. And if we assume it's stress at work and give you some kind of thing to mask it, well, we needed that sign. The pain was telling us, hey, get some treatment. And then finally, the last is this is so horrible. Doctors are not only scientifically illiterate, but statistically illiterate. You want to know, what is my risk of getting breast cancer or gallbladder disease from taking this? And they cannot calculate it. They get it wrong, or they cheat off the pharma reps worksheets and little bulletins where they use this kind of way of stating risk called relative risk that has nothing to do with your individual risk. It's about, population health researchers comparing how different was this group from that group when we studied them. I mean, this.
So Amy, what are some of as people are just getting to know you, what are some of the most amazing experiences that people have come back to you with the information that you've given them?
Oh,
How is it?
I love this one.
How has the information changed their life? I love that.
This is the best. I think I love these stories. My favorite one, there's this man on Twitter who follows me, or X, whatever we're supposed to call it now. And so his wife was very sick in perimenopause, from very symptomatic, like I was. I actually couldn't go to the next city over, like 2 miles away, without throwing up in my shoes while I was driving. This is out of nowhere, in my 40s, suddenly massively car sick like this. Anyway.
So that was related to your perimenopause?
Oh yeah, this is a symptom little known. So the doctor's not even knowing like the classic symptoms. They don't know the less than classic ones. Okay. I put these all in the book. But where were we on this? You were asking. Wait, I got off track on that.
Your biggest praise report.
Oh, this man, he's so wonderful. His wife is sick, so you don't feel like doing anything. She's nauseated. He reads the book to her. My God, isn't that beautiful?
Oh.
So she ends up using the book, the science in the book, brings it to her doctor. Her husband comes with her because she's really doing quite poorly. And she ends up getting the care, the progesterone, and then in menopause, estrogen. She apparently was like on the cusp because, the estrogen remark came shortly afterward. And then it saved their sex life. That's just the most recent thing the guy told me. He's wonderful at telling me these things because I'm just over the moon. But it helped her. She's not sick. She's sleeping. All these things. And he tweets. I wish I could remember his handle. This makes a world of difference to me. And other women will tell me, I got progesterone from my doctor. I got the amount I needed. I was able to get my doctor to increase my estrogen dose because doctors are prescribing out of fear and ignorance, defensive medicine. They're worried about their medical license. They don't know the science. And so they err on the side of, I better either over.
I think you said something. I'm gonna pick on that for just a moment, or bring that out when you talked about defensive medicine. I think that might be a verbiage that a lot of people are not familiar with. But it makes sense because so many of the doctors that I worked with, I was a trauma nurse for 22 years before I went in to study alternative medicine. And I will say, early in my career, it wasn't that way. It was, I'm going to take care of the patient and make sure they're comfortable, their needs are met, and so on. But by the time I left, you're right. It became more and more defensive because every doctor that I knew was always on alert, and they're very concerned about being sued. So then they treat differently. So defensive medicine, I'd never had a word for that before.
I want to explain something about that. This has to do with the fact also that medicine has become increasingly complex. My grandpa was a pediatrician in Detroit who calmed like zillions of, worried moms, and so when he was treating children, we didn't have all the medicine we do now, so much to know. And medicine and research are siloed. They just maybe know their area. And I have to tell you, there's not a doctor I have, except for my psychiatrist who prescribes my ADHD medication. He's wonderful and science-based, but they're all not practicing evidence-based medicine. Noted endocrinologist who I really like and is nice to me and gave me tests. He said something about, if you take more estrogen, it will raise your sex hormone binding globulin, which is elevated in me. This binds, you can hear the bind in there. What it does is it sucks up the steroid hormones, binds with them, and sails them out of your body unused. Okay. So they can't dock with their receptors.
It's a good explanation for it.
Pardon?
That's a good explanation for it.
Thank you. And so he tells me, well, if you take estrogen, that's going to really elevate your SHBG. And I said, well, actually, it would if I were taking oral estrogen, which has what's called first pass hepatic effect. It goes first to your liver, and our liver is very good at getting rid of things, and this is the whole, where, this happens. But actually, if I take the estrogen I'm taking, the safe kind, the transdermal skin sticker estrogen, it raises it a negligible amount. So now I should not be this medical lie detector with everyone. And sometimes I just bite my lip, to like not say anything. But God, it's horrible. The head of Kaiser Gynecology right now told me about a month and a half ago, because my wonderful guy gynecologist is gone. I'm praying he's going to come back in September, please, because my nightmare will stop then, because he listens, and I tell him what the science is. He's not trained in that. None of them are. But he listens and takes it in. I give validated reasons for why this should be this or this test anyway. So she tells me, oh my God, you should taper off estrogen at 60. I'm 61. So, and she says it causes breast cancer and Alzheimer's and all this stuff. And that strong party like it's 1999. Oh my God, she's practicing medicine like it's 2002. The Women's Health Initiative study, horrible methodology, distorted announcement, made all these women become unhealthy because they threw away their estrogen out of fear. What happened was they tested women who were in their 70s, gave them estrogen. Now, grandma is not going to the doctor looking for a hormone prescription, and women who are already sick and obese and diabetic and broken in the ways that we get when we're elderly, that they will be harmed by estrogen. If you are already in ill health, it will make things worse. So they were probably harmed, through being participants in this. And then what they did was they announced, oh, healthy menopausal women will get cancer, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, no, because it didn't apply. And also, the so-called cancer they found, some of this was like 3 months into the study. Breast cancer doubles at an extraordinarily slow rate compared to like 3 months. So this was existing cancer, and those patients should have been removed from the treatment group. This is the stuff that I'm trained in by Sander, where I'm this like little martinet of science, and like, where's the control group? How dare they? I'm literally outraged by this. And so, this is untrue. It was discredited by 2004. A great deal of research was done afterward. Yes, this is wrong. Estrogen actually it did not lead to cancer, and actually seemed people who took estrogen, you have all these health benefits from it, for your endothelium, for your brain, for your bones. Estrogen is enormously protective of bone. So I just want to let me just finish, because this is really important for how harmful this was, this advice. Now, I knew this woman claimed to have read the science, and I knew, boy, is that, I don't know for sure, but wow, does that seem like a lie? Number one. Not only that, she hadn't even read the Cliff Notes, the practice bulletins that tell you this from Menopause Society, whereas 2017, 2022, they say there's no stopping rule anymore. Individual health should decide it. You monitor your patient. They can take it throughout their lifespan if they're healthy. The reason this is so harmful, the strongest case for taking estrogen throughout your lifespan in terms of research, and when I say that, I mean the most well-supported, is bones. That we don't break bones at 65 generally. We break them at like 79, and so if you stop estrogen now, your bones will reverse a little bit in terms of the, bone health and strength and everything. And then you will not have that protection. They'll be eroding more throughout your lifespan. You'll be unprotected at 79. I am taking estrogen at 61. I will continue to take it unless there's some reason I can't health-wise. And so when I'm in my 70s, I will have that. And also I lay out in the book the most efficient and powerful ways to exercise. And I do very minimal time-wise, exercise, but I do the most powerful kind for bones and muscles and metabolism. Your bones and muscles are metabolically active. And so look at my arms. Like, I don't really do anything. I work out 16 minutes a week with weights, doing slow speed weight training to muscle failure. What that means, slow speed weight training to muscle failure, means that I lift weights that are heavy for me, very slowly, like 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down. It's very boring at first. You have to watch a clock because it's incredible how slow it is at first. And then when you can no longer do another rep with good form, and you do this binary, you do both hands, you don't do pumping iron one hand or anything like that, that is muscle failure. And that through that, the next day or 2 days, your muscles are repairing themselves. And that is how you build quality, resilient, strong muscle. And what you do for muscle, you do for bone.
I
So,
love that.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's easy to do. People don't like complicated. The fact that you just uncomplicated their life is really, really important. Do a lot of people still continue, and should they take testosterone?
Oh, okay. This is just something I've been looking into. Now, in the book, I'm very medically conservative, scientifically conservative. I look for longitudinal research on safety for any kind of substance. I look for the adverse effects. And there just wasn't sufficient longitudinal research on testosterone and breast cancer and cardiovascular disease for me to feel good about putting it in the book. So I say this will be a thing, I think, in menopause. It'll be like the third hormone. And since then, research has come out. Not only is it safe in terms of not elevating breast cancer risk, it seems protective. And the cardiovascular research isn't there yet, but it looks to me like it's also not a problem there. And then you want to always look at your individual health. That's why it's important to test, to get these metrics, and
That's right.
not over test, but and so with my individual health, I'm not at risk of cardiovascular disease. That's one of the things I'll tell you about, like how to eat. Very important to not be inflamed and in ill health. And so testosterone, the problem is there's no FDA approved drug. This is really terrible. And so because of my financial situation from putting everything into this book, living off my IRA because I'm a moron and with a mission. Anyway, I can't afford what women should take, which is compounded testosterone cream in oral syringes. You, with your nursing background, know this does not mean you like eat out of a syringe, but what that means is the compounding pharmacy, they create measured doses of a tiny amount of testosterone women need compared with men. Right. And so you're taking exact doses, and it's cream. Men take androgel. It's alcohol-based gel, and men have 20 to 25% thicker skin and more sebum, more oil. So this is not designed for women. But I need to take something because I have very low free testosterone due to my elevated sex hormone binding globulin, which is because I eat a very healthy carnivore diet and my insulin is so low. If I ate cookies, my SHBG would come down. That's not the answer. Testosterone, unbeknownst to doctors, taking testosterone, in about perhaps 4 months, perhaps sooner, is likely to bring down my sex hormone binding globulins so I can get the estrogen I take instead of it being shot out of my body. And so I will be able to have it be free and active and not bound. And I have special reasons that this is like this in me, where everything just is erased, every steroid hormone. I had pharmacogenetics done. This is another thing people can do. It's expensive. I got it free because someone liked that I do the science work. This is genetic testing to see how drugs react within your system. Only my psychiatrist provides this to patients, because he wants to see if I give you an antidepressant, which one works, or ADHD drug. He's beautiful. This is medicine as it should be practiced. And so basically I got you asked about testosterone. So what I had to do is give the doctor, and she's somebody in medicine. She was going to give me 3 days a week dosing because it's a male dose, and I figured out the pharmacokinetics of testosterone for the cream, but I didn't realize I wouldn't be able to get it. So then I did androgel, and it would cause a spike and then a dive. I would have high testosterone, from the prescription, and then nothing for a day. It lasts in your system maybe like 12 hours. I mean, it lasts longer, but 12 hours, you want to take it every 12 hours if you're doing the dose like I am in an evidence-based way.
At the end of the day, I know we're coming up here. At the end of the day, work with your provider, work with someone that actually has knowledge of what you speak of.
I would say just your provider's not going to know. That's the problem.
Yeah, get your book.
Yes.
And you'll have some guidelines in there, correct?
Yes, and
For our
also
audience?
I'm going to have a free twice monthly Substack. People can write me questions for the Substack,
Awesome.
and if you want to get that, it's subscribers at amyalkon.net. Amy
Okay. And Matt will
MyAlkon.
have that all below there for you.
Super, thank you.
Well, I'm sure you've ignited a lot of additional questions. I know our time is up. We could go on and on, but we're going to do this again,
Oh,
Amy.
I'd love to.
I can't wait.
Yeah, there's
Thank you
too
so
much
much.
information for like the time I'm trying to,
I know, but you know what? We'll do another. Let's do a whole series on it. That would be
I love
fantastic.
that. We can talk
Yes.
dietary and exercise stuff or cardiovascular.
Yes.
I love this. You can see me
People are
smiling.
so hungry.
Yeah.
People are hungry right now for correct information, not a bunch of misinformation, but really good information from somebody that obviously cares about them. So again, thank you for everything that you put together. I know I appreciate it. I can't wait to get your book. And it was such a delight to get to know you. And thanks to Cardio Miracle for our sponsor. I truly appreciate them. I know that they have personally changed my life. So hats off to them. And God bless everybody. And until next time, you're going to hear from Amy again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.